Hello all and welcome to today's session with the Google Digital Garage. We'll be doing build a CV and write a cover letter, as well as at the end of today's session, we're going to have a little section around searching for jobs online and sort of hints and tips around this. Before we get in, I'd just like to cover a little bit of housekeeping. So at the top of the screen, approximately here, you should have your refresh button. Should be a circle with a little arrow. If you get any issues with audio or visuals, or maybe it looks like this has been dubbed over, just hit that button and it should refresh and sort of sort out any pace issues or video issues. Any additional problems? Today we have the wonderful Anthea with us, who is moderating today. She'll be in the little chat. Do feel free to say hello. Any questions, any problems, feel free to put them across to Anthea. She'll be able to help you out throughout today's session. So do feel free to get involved is what we really want from today's session. So throughout the session, there's going to be 3 separate sections where there's going to be questions where you can ask a question at any point during the session. And in that particular section, we will answer your questions. At any point throughout the whole of today's session, do put the questions in the comments. Put the questions on the YouTube live. Any question, big or small, feel free to ask that question. If you think it's irrelevant, it's relevant to you. Don't worry that you think the question isn't right, it isn't worded correctly. We'll get it reworded. I'll be able to answer that question. Throughout today's session, we want you to get engaged. So if you haven't already, say hello in the chat, introduce where you're from, maybe why you're here, and hopefully we'll get a bit more engaged and get this chat going. And then last of all, just like to introduce myself. So my name is Joseph Kelly Muldoon. I've been working on this project now for approximately 4 or 5 years. Done a bit of work in the job centres. Could not tell you how many CVs and cover letters I've aided with over the years. And hopefully throughout today's session, you're going to walk away with some of that knowledge as well. So let's kick into today's session. So what are we going to do? So first of all, we're going to break today's session down into 3 bite-sizable chunks. The first one is building your CV. So we'll go through the building blocks of what it is to build your CV, how you do it and why you do it. Not just this is what you're going to do. Because to fundamentally understand any of these processes, you need to understand the how, the what, and the why, basically. So we're going to go through building the CV. And as you've also come here for writing a cover letter, we will be covering this too. And then at the end of today's session, we'll be getting you job ready for search. So how to search online, where to look, what tools can we maybe use to make searching online that little bit easier for jobs, but most importantly, reduce the amount of time it may take you to find them. So one thing that we are super proud about is the free career certifications. So if you want to get ready for a job, maybe you want to bolster your CV, maybe you want to add a few more things to your CV to just give yourself that extra little bit of a pep, an extra little bit of a get up and go, have a look at goo.gul/career cert UK. Here you'll find multiple areas where essentially you can get that extra little bit more information around what are current skills that people want now in their jobs. These are skills that are relevant, like project management, like coding. And these are all things that actually would be great to add to your CV for when they go, oh, we could really do with someone to project manage something. It's like, you know what? I've not done it before, but I have done this course because I want to push myself in my career. So have a look at this. It's totally free to have a look at. It's totally free and available from Google. So career certifications, goo.gul/career cert UK. An amazing opportunity for you to be able to sort of put your best foot forward and update that CV to maybe some modern qualifications, some modern content. Do have a look at this. So the first question you got to ask yourself is, well, what are your career aspirations? What is it that you want to do with your career? What sort of job is it that you actually want? If this is something that maybe you're not sure about, maybe it's something that's why you're here, go through today's presentation, see what you think at the end, and see if it's pulled out some of these ideas for you. But most importantly, if it hasn't, have a look as well for one of our courses called Find Your Career Goals. It's an amazing course that is essentially centered around digging into your sort of skill sets, digging into what it is you want from life, what it is you need from life, not just what pays the bills. So do have a look at that. It's called Find Your Career Goals, an amazing opportunity to do so. But right now, what is it you want from your career? Maybe what sector do you want to go in? What is it that you want to do with your average everyday job? And essentially what I'd love here is for a few of you to put these in the comments and just get a little bit of a flow going between us. So what do we have? We've got a few people typing in there. So we've got, I'm creative, looking for a job in the creative industry. Always, and one of the most important things here that's worth considering is if you are creative, you will not want to do a dead-end job that isn't creative, because you want to find something that suits what I would say like is your inner child. If you were a child and you could choose to do anything in the world, would you just eat ice cream or would you just eat porridge all day? You'd obviously eat ice cream all day. So it's that whole concept of if you are creative and that is your passion, don't just settle for something else. By all means, you might have to do something else in the meantime, but then find your ideal job and look at what the skill gaps that you have versus the skill gaps that you could actually fill. So you no longer have those, so you can start applying for that job. So it's been great so far. Thank you for people for sort of dropping in the career aspirations. It's much appreciated, mate, just getting involved. So once we've got to our career aspirations, so digital marketing. So B Vision is looking for digital marketing. So one thing to bear in mind here as well, if digital marketing isn't something you know about, this is now becoming a massive area when it comes to jobs across the board, because you need to have at least a base understanding in a lot of jobs of what is an aspect of digital marketing. If you're not too sure what this is, do have a look at the Google Digital Garage website. There's a Google Digital Garage certification. Anthea, if you could do is put that in the comments, it'd be much appreciated. And basically, this will take you through the fundamentals of digital advertising. And that is also conveniently the name of the course. And it's well worth looking into. And if this is something that spikes your interest, there's additional learning in Google Analytics and Google Ads, which will be worth building your CV around. And it just means then if someone starts talking about it, instead of you going, I've no idea what you're talking about, you can engage in that conversation. And even if it's something that maybe they didn't expect you to know about, that's a bonus. So just start to think, what is it you want to go into and see what there is out there. Another really good website for that, by the way, is Udemy, just for like free online courses, but we're going to come to that a bit later on. So before we get going into that, let's have a look what it is to actually build your CV. So in the chat, write the following. So what is the primary purpose of a CV? What do you think the whole idea of a CV actually is? Do you think a CV is just a piece of paper, a formality? Do you think it's something that we can maybe mold and make ideal for each job? Or maybe you just do one CV and you hand it out to everybody. So we've got to start thinking about this. We've got to start thinking, actually, well, what is it that we think about in a CV? What is it that the CV is doing for the person at the opposite end who receives that CV? Essentially, they're looking for as much information about you, as well worded, as directed, and as condensed as possible. Because when you're doing this, it is essentially doing exactly what it says here. The Latin for CV is curriculum vitae, which is the course of your life, which I absolutely love as a nice little sort of full circle. So CV is short for curriculum vitae. You need to basically put across the course of your life what it is that you have between being born and now. What do you bring to the table that is going to persuade that person to basically go, you're the person for the job? And essentially, you've got to do this by demonstrating all your areas of expertise, whether it be education, whether it be experience, whether it be soft or hard skills. We need to make sure that we put our best foot forward. 1 second. We've got a few questions coming, which is great as well. So what you've got to consider most importantly, that if you're putting your best foot forward and you're showing everybody what's happened between year zero and right now, you need to consider that this is the first time they've ever come across you. So, for example, having a summary of your experience at the top of your CV, making sure that your CV is goal-orientated and relevant. So you're talking about things that are to do with now. You're talking about, for example, thinking about what else could you put in this CV? What other things can you include? So when we're doing this, we need to think of, well, there's certain skills that they're expecting. There's certain positions they're looking at filling, making sure you're mentioning those positions so that summary of experience is condensed. It's got everything that they need to know about you in a few sentences, making sure it's goal orientated and relevant. So you're literally saying, I'll be going for this, I'll be doing this. It's relevant to that job. You've researched it. You've not just done the same CV for 6 jobs. To be goal orientated, you have to understand the job description. To make it relevant, they can't give the same CV to 7 jobs. What's more important to one is not as important for another. But most importantly, authentic and honest. A white lie here and a white lie there is the start of the problem. If that white lie then spirals a bit deeper and they go, well, how did you do at school? And you're like, well, it says I got 10 C's or above. And then maybe one of the jobs, or maybe you start moving up, they have to check that information. There's people who have been in jobs for years. I think there's what I read about once, for 35 years. And he lied on his application, had the job for 35 years. They did an audit, asked for evidence, and he didn't have it. And it's that sort of thing that meant he instantly lost his job. So just be aware that white lies are the dangerous spiral of sort of, I suppose, untruth, and a dangerous spiral that you need to go into. So making sure that you are authentic and honest is probably by far the most important out of all of these, because it can make it definitely bad for you in the future. So what information should you include on a CV? So a lot of us have this question. A lot of us will literally say, well, what should I include? Essentially, there are 5 key areas to include. The top one, basic information. The second one, opening summary. Work experience, education and achievements, and skills and strengths. So thinking of this, we're now going to go through each one. So basic information, particularly in England. I remember once we dealt with an Italian person who was applying for jobs in Italy as well. And actually they had name, address, contact information, and other important information. And don't quote me on it, but I'm fairly sure that in Italy, you have to put a picture of you on there. When in England, we actually probably push against that because we actually remove some key information. So we choose the best person, not based on anything that what's on their CV. So having your name, address, or location. So location could just be Manchester, Northwest. They don't need to know you live in Salford in whatever postcode. You could just put Joe, South Manchester. Contact information, email address, and phone number. And you might think, why is Joe waffling on about this? This is quite obvious. But genuinely, not once, not twice, I'd probably say more than 3 times, I have done the session on CVs. I've done one-to-ones, I've done mentorings. And there was a lady once who came in and said, for 3 weeks now, I've been using the CV that we worked with you guys with. I was like, oh, brilliant. And he goes, I've not had a single person reply. And I was like, oh, brilliant. What sessions did you do? I said, I did the CV, did the cover letter, did one-to-ones. I was like, okay. And what do we focus on? Well, we did this session, we did this in the one-to-one. This session, we did this. But she never brought in the CV as a finished document. So when she sent it out, her email address and a phone number, she never double-checked them. And she had a typo in both of them. So all the jobs that she was applying for, it's very feasible they could have got back to her. So even though it's obvious, please, please, please get somebody else to read your CV. But when they're doing that, test your contact information. It's simple. It's not hard, but it could be a massive difference between you getting a job and not getting a job. Next, the opening summary. So we have to consider here that this needs to be condensed. 2 or 3 sentences at tops. 2 or 3 sentences, which is going to quickly describe who you are. Think about this. If you were in a lift with Richard Branson and he had a job opportunity and you started your conversation with, hi, my name's Joe. I really like computers and I like drones and I'm into IT lots and I think I'd be a great fit for your company. You've just wasted about 13, 14, 15 seconds and this much space on your CV. It should be smack. You've got 30 seconds. You want to include as much precise, solid content as possible in that opening statement. I've got a drive and a passion for IT that I've delivered and built over the years through hundreds of courses, helping companies strive and make profit of £100,000 over a year with 4 startups. I work in social media, but more importantly, spreadsheets and solving problems in IT. I'd love to work with the company X because this position, it would be perfect for me. Something along the lines of that. But what we've got is 30 seconds, as much information as possible, condensed, you're not waffling on, but you're briefly describing yourself and you're presenting motivation for you applying for that role. You're adding that extra little bit of information. So that opening sentences, 2 or 3 sentences, 1 paragraph at best, small, maybe 2 paragraphs, but it needs to be concise. It needs to be your elevator pitch. You've got 30 seconds with Richard Branson. Don't tell him about your pet fish. You want to think about what it is he wants to hear, what's in the job description, and how can you match these things up. So an elevator pitch. Have a look online at elevator pitches, Google elevator pitches, and it's a really good example of how you can get that information across as quickly as you can. Then when we're looking at work experience, condense this again as much as you can. You can probably get the job title, where you worked, and how long you worked there. If you worked there for more than a year, you could literally just put 0809. If you wanted to, 08 December or DEC to 09 DEC. But literally, you could have the job you held, the company you had it with, and the time you were there. 1 line. Not 3 lines, not 2 lines. Keep it as concise as possible. That is more of a formality than a requirement. Then, once you've done that, the key projects and results that you did. And if you did volunteer work here, is also relevant. And by this, I mean, get this information across as concisely as possible. A really good example of this is a lady once who came into the Google Digital Garage in Manchester. She was a manager at a big sort of coffee chain. And she was applying for a job as a manager at a burger chain, like a local Manchester one. And when she was applying for it, she said, oh, my CV's this, my CV's this. Can you help me through this? So we went through it. And she literally had trained 4 members of staff, managed the store, and been told that I'm an effective manager. And I was like, that's not bad. But we got her to write down. So what I'd recommend doing would be write down the roles that you did. She did training, management, just general stuff in the store, and barista. We then went around training and then said, what have you done in training? And she said, created my own course, delivered it to 5 members of staff at this branch, delivered it to 6 other branches. Actually, it increased profits by 3%, and so on and so forth. So all of a sudden, that training, which you put train 6 members of staff, created a bespoke training program, which got delivered across 6 of the stores in Manchester, which increased profits by 3% at each store. That is an amazing sentence. That doesn't just show management, it shows initiative, it shows drive, it shows passion, and it improved the company's profits. And she started off with trained 6 members of staff. So just consider putting these circles and elaborate, and then find ways that you can put results of these projects. So she did training that increased profits by 3%, and she trained 6 stores. And that's literally in one very condensed sentence. So try and get as much as you can, well worded, with numbers, with figures, with percentages. If you don't know them, go to your bosses and ask them. If you left your last place amicably, you'll remember what projects you've done. Ask for quotes. My management style was recognized by the middle management. I was regularly told that I've solved problems in the workplace within the day when given a project. All of a sudden, you've not just got, I solved problems. I was told, I was recognized. These projects did X, Y, and Z. So every single sentence should have a smack to it. It shouldn't just have, I trained 6 people. And what? Did it do well? Did it do badly? That sentence, I trained 6 people across. I trained 6 stores in Manchester and improved profits by 6%, 3%. Bespoke training program sounds so much better. So break down what you've done in your job roles and find those gaps. Look at your job description. What can you align up? It says training. It says management at the top of the job description. That should be what you top of your experience that you include. And then again, if you did volunteer work, please do not see this as irrelevant. I would not be here where I am today without volunteer work. I did so much when I was a child and it built me to who I am now. So make sure you list that. If you're struggling for experience, get volunteer work under your belt. Educational achievement. So most recently at the top, again, 1 line. You could even do this. School, in brackets, how many A to C's you got. And if you need them in that job, English, science, math, maybe mention, but otherwise one line. This is more of a formality. Unless you're going into academia, so that's sort of like education, university, college, something like that, to teach or to be involved, you probably won't need to list this as in detail, just for formality. It's usually English, science, maths. It's usually even maybe just English lit. So straight away, do think of this. When you move on to college or university, again, try and get it as condensed as possible. And unless you've got professional qualifications that are needed in your field, again, one line. You don't need to have a section like this for that section unless it is required because they specify, please include all of your qualifications that are relevant to this subject area. But just be aware that this is not always something that you need to make half of your CV. This can literally be the equivalent of 4 lines that clearly just state your educational background and your qualifications. And if you have worked on key projects and research, generally this is in the academia area. So it could be that you need to put these in as well. If you've done something maybe outside of your educational role as a hobby, or maybe just in project research. But again, keep it concise. So when it comes to skills and strengths, this is something that a lot of people get confused with. So what qualities would people describe you as having? So think straight away, what is it that if you ask somebody else, what are you good at? What would they say? Again, if you have got time, do have a look at Find Your Career Goals. We go into this in a lot more detail than what we do now. But essentially, by asking somebody else, you'll probably discover there's things that you haven't considered. And then all of a sudden, this then means that you start to go, I am quite good at that. People do continuously come to me about spreadsheets. People do continuously come to me about tech issues. Is this something that I'm good at? So ask people what it is that they think you're good at. Which soft and technical skills do you have? So we're going to go a little bit into this. So soft skills are essentially things that take time or things that you are sort of born with. So for example, leadership comes by doing this job for a period of time. You don't just get a job and then do it. So think about what skills are in your job description and then find ways that you can link to this. So if you've ran a project, if you've done something for a period of time, but it's not been your key role, you can now say, I project manage a job of 4 or 5 members of staff and was regularly told by management that my leadership skills and teamwork building skills were perfect for this role. And even though you've done it for maybe a few months rather than years, you're mentioning and bringing these cases forward. When it comes to hard skills, these are often things that you will have to have either learned or it's something that you can learn over a time. The same with digital skills. You're not born with accounting skills. You're not born with video editing skills. So what we need to consider is examples of skills that you could include in your CV. Teamwork, project management, scuba diving, depending which job you're going for, depending which ones you're going to list. Look at that job description, go through the job description and highlight all the words that you think are the key words in that job description. And it might be that on one job description, you might have different key skills from another one because the skills that they might require are going to be varied. So if you're going for a job in-house for say video editing, you're probably going to need project management, video editing, probably graphic design, maybe some level of coding and programming so you can integrate with the coding and programming team and understand it, and presentation. But another job, it might be we need communication at the top of that pile because you're going to be talking to every one of the different departments to create this brilliant content. So just basically go through that CV, find the keywords that you're talking about. If you haven't got one of these skills, say, for example, leadership or communication, have a look online. Can you get a voluntary position where maybe you can see a position like this and then give yourself half a year to get this under your belt and then start applying for it? So how do we define your strengths? So what are you good at? Write that down. What do you like doing? Write that down. What makes you stand out? Write that down. And for now, leave it blank, but have a think about it because you want to find out what your strengths are. And then we can start talking about them. Build it into your elevator pitch. Build it into your job descriptions. So when you're explaining what it is you do in your job, what tasks you've done, what key things have you taken away, that is what you will include. So strengths can be enthusiastic. For example, you can't say you're enthusiastic and say it like, I'm really enthusiastic. It's like, I get quite excited talking sometimes. I speak fast. My voice changes tonality. But that shows my enthusiasm for this particular area of training. It shows that I'm adaptable because people are asking questions on the fly and I'll answer them. It shows that I'm passionate. But you can't say those skills if I was talking like this and I said I really enjoy CVs. You've got to think, if you haven't got something, it's not to say you can't build it, but start to think about this. Then when we're showcasing your experience, think about the things that you have actually set up for your experience. So can you get experience? Can you get internships? Can you get work placement experience, part-time jobs? Find things in which you could get jobs doing and then think, right, how could I actually get some additional experience in these? So look at volunteering for jobs in your local area, your local community. Is the project management jobs or lead roles that you could do? Look at online certifications like the Google Digital Garage, like Udemy. There's hundreds of free courses where you can tick boxes and develop your knowledge and develop your experience and then test them in a totally free experience placement, work experience, or volunteering placement to then start to push you even further forward. And your hobbies and extracurricular can also come into that. We had a guy once who was running a dojo who didn't know that he had experience doing finance, doing bookkeeping, doing taxes, doing whatever, because he said it's just a hobby. He'd done it for 10 years and successfully ran a dojo with all that information. I quite enjoyed it, actually. And he actually applied for jobs in the finance area based on that experience. But he never thought about that as anything more than a hobby. So reflect on your experience up to date. So what did you do up to now? What did you achieve? Start writing what you have done, what jobs you have done, what things you've been told that you are good at within these jobs. And then once you've wrote all of these down, how does it relate to the job role? And that is the most important thing. Look at what you've done. How does that particular story, that particular thing you got recognized for, relate to the job role? And that's why each CV needs to be made individually, because it might be that they require things in different orders. They might say, I really want someone who's amazing at video editing. The other one might say, I might want someone that's amazing at storyboarding. And you've done both of them, but now you can put the most relevant one at the top. So what we're going to come across next is the formatting of a CV. So generally, I would say that when you're looking at CVs, one page is something that you would have to consider. Generally, if you're doing more than one page, 2 or 3 pages, this is very rare. And it generally comes across when you're going for your CFO, CO, big jobs at the very top where you need to demonstrate serious history of your work. But as a general rule of thumb, 99% of CVs, 1 page, not 2 pages, 1 page of condensed, well-written information. Have a look at these templates. If you're a student leaving school, all of a sudden, experience, you don't have a lot of it because you can't. Where would you have got it from? So you might have a smaller experience section, but a bigger key skills section because you've done quite a lot of things in the school. You've been a prefect, you've ran after school clubs, you've helped with a mentoring program, you did a book reading thing, you've got into the community. So start to think of this now. If you're in year 8, 9, and you haven't got anything in your CV other than FIFA, very few people make it in the FIFA world. So you need to start thinking, what else can you do? Getting volunteer work under your belt, I could not recommend enough. A, it's fun. B, you'll make friends. C, you'll learn things. And D, it will push you out of your comfort zone. And that is what we are trying to push in education, is to push you out of your comfort zone, to get into a zone where you have to learn other skills to make it your comfort zone. And then when you get comfortable, push yourself again. So look at these layouts. Promote the content that draws attention to your relevant skills by having a structure that suits you. So on the left, we have a CV that is well structured. On the right, we have a CV. Both of them say the same sorts of information. But one of them is far more professional. We have a link to our LinkedIn. We have an email address. We have a website. We have our education, our experience, a little skills section. One of them is quite palatable. I can see where the titles are. I can read it quite quickly. Where the other one is quite linear. And actually, there's not a lot of information outside of absolute facts. And the picture of him takes up 1/3 of the page. So think about the way you would structure this. If you're not sure, have a look at the Google Docs for the CV templates. You can just copy and paste your content into them. This is potentially what one of these is actually from. So do have a look at this. And these are examples of CVs that are modern on the left-hand side. And that's the example of the profile with the elevator pitch at the top right of the left-hand side image. That's how much space you could have. And if it's well written, it can get quite a lot of impact straight off the bat. So to maximize impact, write clear and concise. Be transparent about your gaps in your CV. If you're a mother or a father and you've been off or you've been ill, put that in there. Raising a family isn't something to ignore. Raising a family means you've got to be able to spin plates. You've got to have patience of a saint. You've got to be able to cook. You've got to be able to look after children. You've got to be able to take them places. You've got to be a perfect calendar of diaries for each child. That is not something just to go family break. Own that and make that part of your CV so that people go, wow, I've never seen this. And this is something that one of my colleagues actually did. And when she went for an interview, they were like, this is really interesting. No one's ever done this before. So do have a look at this and think, how can you get these breaks in your career that are actually massive parts of your career to help you push forward? And then get somebody else to check it. You will not see some of the mistakes. Right, so we've got, I always think there's something you can make a deal of a job. A huge skill set and not a job we require your CV. Could represent the best qualities. Sorry, how do I go about switching to another specialization? I'm a marketing manager and switched digital marketing freelancing, but I did not get into much of my gigs. My CV is still considerable achievements and skills on business development. So to me, if you're switching between roles, for example, I did this. I went from working as a IT support into digital marketing, what I'm doing now, and training. To me, it's about getting some of those smaller jobs first. So first of all, your CV, to me, it's more about confidence than a CV when you work in the freelance world. But if you've got this, you need to consider, what is it that they're looking for within these jobs? There's going to be sections where you have done in this world that you were in beforehand, where actually you've gone from a marketing manager. So there's going to be key aspects that you need to look at. Find those aspects in the digital marketing world and align some of those goals up with that. So rather than having your CV entirely about that, look at some of the key digital marketing aspects you have got involved in, what impact you've made on those projects. Get one or two small clients. Have a look at websites like Upwork. Have a look at websites like Facebook jobs, Google jobs, Fiverr even. It's not always a Fiverr. And you can literally get some of these smaller gigs to build this experience, to build that confidence, but that'll then mean it optimizes the chance moving forward. So basically, to switch jobs, your core skills are the same. Your soft skills are the same, but you've actually got more knowledge than a lot of people will have, which means you can manage these projects. And that could be where you flip this on its head, is that you might know all of this digital marketing stuff, but you've also been higher up that chain and been a marketing manager, which means you might go into managing, strategizing, coming up at the top level, and then maybe hiring people below you or getting people, other freelancers, to do the bit below, so you could do what you either want to do best or what you enjoy. So spend time looking at your soft skills and finding which ones are the best to move with you, and then just make that CV more aligned to the sort of freelance world rather than the sort of employed world, and find the relevant websites to do that. I am creative due to my level of experience. I got approached for a management level job. That's not my forte. I prefer working with words and schedules. How do I handle this? I suppose the question there could be very honest with them and just literally saying, right, actually, I've got this job that you've offered me. My specialism, my area that I want to be involved in is this. Is there some flexibility within inside this job role to actually have some more of this average every day to day, or at least strategizing it? And if it's not for you, that's the main thing, is be honest. If you don't want to move up because of the managerial roles, be honest with them and be like, actually, I really enjoyed this part, but I do want to move up. Would this be a 70-30 split, or would it be a 90-10 split? And if you put your cards on the table, that's all they can ask you to do. Is it mandatory to have a photo on a CV? No, not in the UK. If anything, it's pushed against. In some countries, it is. In Italy, I remember I was shocked when I was told that it was. And have 14 years experience. Can we have a 2-page CV also? And there's certainly no word count limit. 14 years of experience, depending what jobs you're going for. Essentially, are you repeating content below? So if you've got 1, 2, 3, 4 jobs, if you're repeating any experience in any of those jobs, then don't. If it's the least experience and you've got it higher here, then mention it there. Don't mention it here. If you've got experience here, or you've not got experience here, you've got it here, don't repeat those jobs. Just basically make it concise. I'd still say you could get it onto one page If you do roll over onto 2, it's not the end of the world, but just consider that people want to read this in seconds, literally. I know someone once that used to work in recruiting, and she'd look at her CV, read it, and within less than 10 seconds, she'd put it in the yes, no, or maybe pile. You can't read a whole CV then, but spelling mistakes, badly laid out, 2 or 3 pages. It was like, we haven't got time. No, no, spelling mistake. No. So think about how quickly this goes into it. So next, we're going to have a look at writing a cover letter. There's a few more questions that I will try and come back to make sure that I cover these. So next is showcasing your skills and experience. So 40% of recruiters say they look at a cover letter, they look for a cover letter, and 45% of recruiters say they lack a cover letter that will result in rejection of a CV. So if you're not sure, give a cover letter. If it says CV, no cover letter, give a cover letter. You can tweak templates that you've made and basically make it a relevant cover letter for each of your jobs. So essentially, give a cover letter with your job and spend time doing this. How can I build that cover letter? It's broken down into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sections. So first of all, who you are and what you're interested in. So what is the job that you're applying for? Where did you hear about it? This is a formality. Essentially, when we're doing this, we need to consider that we have to be polite and just mention why we found it. So what site and what job we're actually going for. Then we go into the introduction. So who you are and what you are interested in. So a little bit of an opening statement. What is the job you're applying for and where did you hear about it? Then we're going to go into what is important to you. So this is where you're starting to build this cover letter around you. What is it that you're good at? What is it that you enjoy? Why do you match this job description? Why does the company want you? Then having a look at problem versus solution. So the job description is your problem. You have to solve this. Look at the language used. If it says we 100% require someone with problem solving skills, please read into that and make sure you mention that very high up in your CV and in your cover letter. Look into the company, research their LinkedIn, research their website, research their ethos. Is there anything that aligns up with you that you can bring into this picture to make it even bigger so that they can see that you've researched? Make sure it's clear that you've researched. Your company ethos is forever grow or forever growing. One of my key skills is I spend 2 hours a week learning new skills. Looking at the CV, I have most, if not all, of your requirements, but I've already started working on some of my weaknesses. All of a sudden, they're demonstrating your ethos is their ethos. Mi casa, su casa sort of approach. But these new challenges and the industry challenges shows that you've researched, shows that you've demonstrated it. Maybe you start posting a few posts before the interview about some of the things that they've talked about. So you're literally aligning them to go, they've done good CV, they've got a good cover letter. Let's research this person on social media. Oh, they're talking about this. They're talking about this. They've talked about this. And then work and personal skills for your job. So what skills do you have? What skills can you tick off this box and just briefly mention? You don't have to mention all of them, maybe the top 3, but making sure that they've got a problem, top 3. You've got a solution, top 3. And then if you have certifications, volunteering, achievements, skills, find what is relevant to that job and list the ones that it does. We're a cross-international company across Spain, England, France, and India. Mention that you are bilingual if you are bilingual. I speak 3 languages, English, English, Indian, and Spanish, if you do, obviously. But straight away, you're not just mentioning that for no reason because they're a multi-international company. So here's some really good examples of how a cover letter can be done. So as you can see here, we've got the each section. So making sure at the top, the hi, hello, dear, big sentence. It could just be something as simple as I'm applying for the job of classroom assistant. I found the job on Indeed. I really look. That's it. Then the introduction could just be, once you've done that, the introduction, it could just be education has been a big part of my life for years. I've been told, and I do love developing people's knowledge and sharing my skills. Their problem could be you need people to be patient. You need people to be knowledgeable. You need people to have a background in education. So label, what is it that you actually have? What is it that are the problems that they're putting on their CV and how you can push them forward? And again, if you've got these certificates, if you've got these volunteering work, links to your website, your hobbies, why do you think hobbies are often in these? Hobbies can sometimes be in this because if you've got 4 or 5 people who are applying for a job, it could just be that which one of these aligns the most up with our team, with our ethos. So making sure that you just mention these briefly is a really nice way of doing this. And then with the sign off, I'm really honored to be considered for this position. I look forward to hearing from you. Please let me know if you would like any more information about me. Essentially, you're sort of saying to them, I'm honored to be here. I'm not just here because I'm bored. I'm not just here because I want to tick a box and get a job. And you'll look forward to hearing from you. It's like a little earworm. You're sort of putting that positive step forward. So making sure that you lay it out. So when you finished your cover letter, go back through it and go, right, let me check the hello section and the introduction. Summarize myself. Yep, I've done problems versus solutions. I've highlighted the 3 areas I think are most important. And I've mentioned these concisely in here. I've gone through the relevant achievements that I've got, and I've signed it off very politely. So now what we need to consider is the portfolio. We need to consider, well, what is it that we bring to this table here? So you want to demonstrate your experiences. You want to showcase this. A small sample of your work you could maybe include, making sure you've put your skills in there, you've gone through your CV, this is the double check, and making sure that the relevant qualifications are mentioned for this. So here we have, Dear Mrs. Webb, I'm a customer assistant currently employed by Sparks. I'd like to apply for the sales advisor role at Shirts and Skirts. I heard about the job through seeing a position advertised in the job market. Boom. Hi and introduction done. Strong, where you are, where you want to be, where you found them. So the summary of your experience. I would describe myself as a friendly, helpful and patient team member and take pride in offering a great level of customer service. I've been praised, not I have said, I've been praised by somebody else for a warm manner in which I deal with customers. Great way of saying this is what I'm like. I'm friendly, I'm helpful, I'm patient. And somebody else has also said that I have a great warm manner. Problem versus solution. I think I'd be a great fit for the role because I pride myself on being being able to cope well under pressure. I have also worked part-time at Marks while studying, and I'm used to dealing with a wide range of customers on a daily basis. So the problem was probably high pressure situation and dealing with a variant types of customers. But what's great about this is not just saying I'm good. I'm a great fit for this role because I cope well under pressure and dealing with a range of customers on a daily basis. But I like the way he's also shoehorned in. I did this while I was doing education, while I was being educated, to show that he's spinning plates, to show that he is the person for this job. Relevant achievements. In my spare time, I enjoy volunteering at the local youth group in my village, where I help to organize activities for this group. I also taking a short part-time course on counseling, as I love learning about the human mind and improving it in my listening skills. So also demonstrating, just doing a bit of a course on the side, a short part-time course, forever developing my knowledge. And if they've mentioned anything about listening skills, this is like, woo, this is amazing. He's literally showing that he's got in his spare time, he likes to help people. He likes to do things outside of that spare time just to improve his knowledge, as well as being told that telling you he's a great fit. Somebody else saying that he can handle pressure situations. He can handle different types of people. This is a really well-written cover letter. And the sign off, I'm really honored to be considered for this position. I look forward to hearing from you. Please let me know if there's anything else you would like to hear any more information about me. So they're perfectly lining this up so that you can literally say, this is the job for me. They've spent time going through this and ticking it off. So do this with your cover letter. So what have we got now? We have got a few questions. So how/where do we refer to references? And we should always upgrade our CV. Yes. So first of all, when it comes to references, you can literally just have that as a line at the bottom of your CV. It could be reference, the name of the person, email address or phone number, and maybe the place where you work with them. Yes, it's not section built into this, but it doesn't have to take up a large chunk of space. It could literally be one line or two lines split into two. Joe KM, reference at the top, Joe KM, phone number, email address, and maybe the location that they were at. Some places request references. Some places don't. So read the CV, read the job description, read your content, have included what they're asking for. And if you've got job references, if you've got references, so people at your old jobs, one line will do the job. You don't need to take up a chunk of space. Should we always upgrade our CV? But the 100% yes. So it's great Anthony has answered this question. Yes, you should. Every week, every month, you should be learning something new. Even if it's in work, online, Udemy, Google Digital Garage. Can you give yourself a task to improve your CV every month? Swap binging on a series of Netflix for doing the Google Digital Garage qualification. Swap watching Coronation Street, EastEnders, and catch it up at the weekend or something like that. And do a course in computing. Do a course in HTML. And you might think, well, why is this even useful? It's just getting your brain to be better at learning. When you're children, your brain absorbs at a much better rate than when you are an adult. But spending that time means that you can give yourself the optimum opportunity to absorb more. You want to be a sponge. Updating your CV shows growth. As you grow, this will be demonstrated on your CV. If you're new to the world and you just come out of education, your friend is going to have went to education, had a part-time job, went to college, went to university, went to a job, or went straight to a job. What is the difference between you and them? Look at volunteering options. Look at ways to educate yourself. If you have two people side by side, Jim, Bob, twins, applying for a job, they've done the exact same thing for the whole of life. But if Jim has got Google Digital Garage, he's got qualifications in coding, he's got examples of volunteer work that he's done for the last 3 years, he's trained people on this, he's even started a part-time job doing training for HTML at schools. I'm giving you a total unrealistic picture, but possible, versus Bob, who has done nothing. They're obviously going to go with Jim. So think about situations where bulks of people get made redundant, for example. It happened to myself. What is the difference between you and those other people that have worked there for 10 years when they're all applying for the same jobs? It's how you demonstrate your skills. And if you have more skills, you can demonstrate more skills. So consider this. Your CV should continuously try and be developed. If you've got a new role, if you've worked in a different department, management, project management, you were on, say, the shop floor, you did a bit of back-end stuff, you did a bit of rotation or rotors, all of a sudden, make sure you mentioned you've done rotors, you've done payments, you've done HR. If you've done anything, you want to make sure you include that in your CV. As a future digital marketer with not much experience, what shall I include in my portfolio? So if you've not got much experience, get it. Go to your local cafes, go to your local areas, and literally, would you like any hand? Go before you go in, look on their Facebook, look on their LinkedIn, look on their Instagram, look at the website, and go, is it possible to talk to the manager, please? And you go, what do you want to talk to them about? I'm just currently trying to expand my digital marketing experience, and I've noticed on your website and your social media that it's not very active. I'm just wondering if it's possible to have a quick chat. Have a chat with them and literally say, I'd be willing to do this for free to see the impact. Currently, if you don't have much or no experience, you're getting experience for free. Then as you make an impact and it makes a difference in sales, maybe it makes a difference in website traffic, makes a difference in bookings, all of a sudden, 3 months down the line, you could say to them, I hope you've enjoyed that. Is there any chance you could make this into paid work? No? Okay, brilliant. Hope you enjoyed that. I'm glad I could make an impact in the local community. Next place. Worst case scenario, you go to 3 places and don't get paid for either of them, but you do that over 3 months and you make an impact to each one of them. Now you can say, I've run social media campaigns. I've developed a website. I've used Google Analytics to inform business decisions, and I increased traffic by 15% on 3 different websites over a 3-month period. And then you can start to go into how and why. But all of a sudden, you have experience. You didn't have experience. but now you have experience. The guy next to you doesn't have that experience. What's the worst case scenario? Someone goes, no. They slam the door in your face. Do you think Elon Musk, do you think anybody just got a no and went, all right, moving on? You ask 10 places, ask 20 places. If 10 of them get back to you, you can start to choose the ones that you want. Small businesses don't have this team. Give yourself that opportunity. What about your comment on LinkedIn about auto-generated CV profiles? Is this format perfect? Because it just takes up a lot of space where the information could be on one page. Essentially, when you use LinkedIn and it makes that, what's great about LinkedIn is it does generate you a CV. But the bad thing is, if you don't keep that up to date, it's not relevant. And if you auto-generate a CV from LinkedIn, the CV that you're applying for, that job for, the problem is that isn't customized to that job description. But what is amazing about LinkedIn is that people will come to you with jobs. So keep your LinkedIn up to date, keep your CVs up to date, then jobs come to you. I got a job with the Google Digital Garage because of LinkedIn. They found keywords, sent me a thing saying, would you mind applying for this job with a large IT corporation? I was like, I'll have a look. And then I found out it was Google. I was buzzing. But literally, I just left the job after being there for 7 years, and LinkedIn got me that job. So by keeping both of them up to date means that with CVs, normal CVs, you find jobs, you apply. But with LinkedIn, people find you and ask you to apply for jobs. You've sort of already skipped stage one of the process. So having both up to date would be the best one, because taking up information on that one page is what will happen with LinkedIn, which is why you need to customize it. So now we've got to consider is the job search. So sharing content, pages to follow, check your digital footprint, search your name, go onto your Facebook, go into your Instagram, go through your history and remove anything that's untoward, a bit silly, a bit inappropriate. This is what happened with I'm a Celebrity, and people got kicked off the show during and before it even started. Have a look at your digital footprint. Have a look at a website called deseat.me. So DESEAT.me. But spend time going through your history, remove follows from pages that you're no longer interested in so that it's up to date, so that you're not following I'm a princess.com and I'm not following princess.com line on Facebook when you're applying for a CFO job because you've never changed your Facebook, or make it private. But most importantly, look at your pages, look at things you've been tagged in, and remove the things that are no longer relevant. 90% of recruiters will check social media, 9 out of 10. Most people get jobs through referrals. So that's why LinkedIn's a particularly good tool. I had a friend that applied for a job. When they applied for the job, the guy who was applying for had 3 contacts that he had. He knew this because he researched them, asked them if they could write him a message. He got the job. Spend that time researching it. Referrals are the way to do this. And one third of employers use social media to find new recruits. So by being there, you're optimizing this opportunity. So create a compelling brand online. Reevaluate your social media, create a LinkedIn profile, have a good picture, have a good banner, join in discussions in the area of work that you want to be interested in. Write content, create content, and share it so they can see that you're actively involved in this area. Don't just think small, think big. Where do you want to be in 5 years? Don't be like, oh, I'm struggling right now, or I don't know what to do. Where do you want to be? Remove all of this struggle. I want to be a manager in 5 years of at least 20 people. Brilliant. How are you going to get there? Right. Once you know you want to be, identify trends that this business sector is doing. Identify what these trends are and use this to be able to write content that's going to help you get noticed. Research the roles and requirements around these roles so that you can find what areas you have, which areas you need to get, what skills, what key skills, what hard, soft skills do I need? I need to be better at prints. I need to be able to do Photoshop. Do a Photoshop course. Build this time to build yourself. Learn about search engines. Use search engines to look for these jobs, these keywords. If you get a job given to you on LinkedIn, use it, copy and paste that job title into Google. Find it on Google Jobs. Go to job boards. Go to Indeed. Go to Plenty of Jobs. Fish for Jobs. And then all of a sudden, these will return this information to you so that you can spend more time improving your CV, improving what's on your CV. A really good example of this is Google Jobs. Go to Google, type in a job. or type in Google Jobs, and you'll see a weird little square appear at the top of Google. Click on that. And what this does is collates all of these jobs from different sites and brings it onto one dashboard. You can then filter the relevant sections, filter the relevant areas, and all of a sudden, instead of you going to 6 or 7 different places, all of those places come to you. So you're streamlining your approach. Rather than going to 6 websites, go to 1. Or making sure that you make yourself efficient, set reminders, filter through these jobs to give yourself the best way of doing this. So the key, keep an eye out for this key information. Daily tasks and responsibilities. So what is that job going to involve? Because you want to make sure that that's what you're going to be doing. Make sure that is what you want to be doing. You don't want to be quitting that job in a week or 2 because you didn't read this properly. Specific skills and experience required. By doing that research, you'll know what you're doing. Commitment to personal development means you're optimizing the fact that you're going to beat everyone else. You're going to continuously do this. And then look at your salary and location. Could you go further and earn more? Ask for more money, let them come down. But making sure that all of this information is right before you apply for that job, because it's harder to get out of this later on. So choose the roles that match your values. So find jobs and roles and bits of what you enjoy are part of that job. Don't just apply for a job purely based on the money. You've got to find what you enjoy and see if you can find a role that matches that. Making sure that you create plans for success. So make it specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-bound. I want to work at a finance startup. I will have achieved this job, a job offer by this time. I'm working at a finance intern because it's achievable. It's realistic. I have the knowledge and the skills. I'm not just going for a CFO job. It's something that is realistic. And I want to achieve this goal within 2 years. So set yourself, I'm going to get some training. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this every week. And within 2 months, I'm going to have 4 courses under my belt. Boom. So what career goals for you next? Spend time finding that job for you. Spend time giving yourself that opportunity to give yourself the best job that is for you. Have a look at the Find Your Career Goals course and make sure that you spend that time building your confidence, building your knowledge, and building your power to put that on paper on your CV. So by having more knowledge means you can build a better CV. By building a better CV means you're giving yourselves that greater opportunity. And basically make sure that you break apart your CV you currently have and make sure it's customized for each and every job. So what are the next steps? If you haven't got some of these key skills, or maybe you want to add some, go to goo.gul/career cert UK. Have a look at the different courses. Give yourself a challenge. Push yourself outside of your comfort zone and give yourself the opportunity to develop your knowledge and expand that CV beyond the realms of what you do. If you've got gaps, look at voluntary work. If you're looking for experience, go and find it, especially in digital marketing. Go and ask local shops. If you haven't got experience, look on volunteering websites. Find local volunteering experience to give yourself that experience. All we can ask for now is a quick thank you for everyone that turned up. If you would like to, go to goo.gul/digital garage feedback. My name was Joe. I hope you enjoyed today's session. Anthea, thank you so much for getting involved and getting us through the chat and moderating as well as you always do. And more importantly, if you want to get digital, if you want to get social, #digital garage. Tell us what you thought of today's session. Tell your friends and family. And we hope to see you again at the Google Digital Garage. Thank you very much. Have a good evening. And thank you for turning up for today's session on your CV and cover letter. Thank you and goodbye.